All right, folks, we thank God for this evening or morning or whatever your time is at your end. We are coming to you from a very different location, as you can see, and we're happy to have you here. So once again, let's just give ourselves a minute, maybe not even up to a minute, and just call a friend and say that we're online now. So let's get ready. Let's get ready. Call a friend and ask the person to join right away, wherever you are. For those of you on social media, let's be sure you can hear me. Those of you on Zoom, if you can hear me, and if you can see me too, that's fine. Just indicate if you can hear. Good. All right, great. So let me check if social media to Facebook is fine so that we can start the lecture. So call a friend and tell the person that, hey, we are getting on the E-Class right now, so please just join. Let's give ourselves we give ourselves a minute or two, now getting into the seconds. Yeah, so if you can hear me on social media, Facebook, just indicate. Let me see if you can. Those of you on Facebook, do you hear me? Folks on Facebook, can you hear me? Just drop a note. Facebook, just indicate. All right, I think, okay, good. All right, so before we start today, we thank God for bringing us all on board. We've been looking at the Transreladership E Class, and today, before we start, if anybody has any question from the previous sessions, kindly let us know. Again, if you have a friend who is supposed to be online by now, but it's not online, do well to invite the friend. Let's get on board. Sometimes when they come late, then you have to explain and go over again and again. So if they can join us now, hooray. No question. Let's hear from you. If you have any question, you can drop it now on any of the media platforms, or you can just drop it on Zoom before we start. That of last week, if anybody has any question. Any question? Okay, if there are no questions, then we thank God for today. We will just start right away. We have been looking at, last week we looked at the foundation. We also looked at the prologue. Today, we are taking a step further and we're looking at transformation. We're looking at transformation. So let me see if I can share the screen with you and then we take it out from there. All right, I hope. Okay, I think we can. All right, so just a minute, let's okay. Because some may need a recording, I have to quickly go and put it on. Okay, so we're looking at living legacies. Don't forget, this is the framework on which we are doing everything we are doing. And as I indicated today, we are beginning from transformation. We've already done the prologue, we've done the foundation, and today we are moving forward to transformation. Now, for those of you who have just joined either on social media or any of our media platforms, you may have to go back to the previous videos and come along. But the better way is to register. If you register, you can have access to the workbook, you can access to the book itself and other manuals, training manuals. And then we're also able to transmit the PowerPoint. You know, now even data, if every session we have to send it, the number of megabytes you have to send to everybody. So if it is registered, at least then we're able to make those provisions available for you. So there are options that you can sign on, and that very much depends on you. All right, so let's come home to transformation. The dictionary defines transformation as, let me try and spotlight mine so that you can follow what I'm doing. All right. Okay, good. Defines transformation as a marked change in form, nature, and appearance of something, especially so that it is better. Now take note of these three words: form, nature, and appearance, because we'll be coming to that. So in transformational drive, we seek to produce, as far as transreladership is concerned, we seek to produce remarkable, tangible, and lasting changes progressively. And that is the agenda of all that we're trying to talk about. So again, remember, we've always been using the example of Jesus Christ, how he was able to draw men and women to himself through inspiration. He had a very clear transformational agenda, and he knew what he was looking for in a man and how he was able to turn people around. So his goal, having sourced from inspiration for transformation, was the basic foundation of his mandate. In other words, Jesus had a mandate to transform people. So he was able to take a fisherman and made him fishers of men. He was able to take a persecutor and turn him into a preacher. Look around. Jesus transformed everybody he came into contact with. And this is the principle underlining transreladership, that whatever you take hold of, if it is a business, you must be able to transform the business. And if we are to go back to the definition, we are talking about a marked change in form of your business, a marked change in form of your church, form of your institution, and the nature and appearance. And these 3 points are very critical as we come to. So whatever we are looking at, we are saying that there has to be a clear goal as to what kind of transformation you are expecting. And then we'll look at the skills to achieve that. So when we look at the example of Jesus Christ, he preached the good news to the poor. He was passionate about what he was doing. He provided sight to the blind. He proclaimed the acceptable year of the Lord. These are things he did to transform the lives of people. These are things he did to transform, and that is what we are looking at. Let me just I see that people are still joining, so let me try and make a few of you co-hosts so that you can help us quickly get them as they come. All right. So those of you who knows a bit about this Zoom, you can just maybe indicate to me, and then I can also help you to admit some people in. All right. So now let's move on. So lessons now from Jesus Christ. What are the lessons? We have to be clear in our mind what purpose we hope to achieve. Very clear in your mind. And then once the purpose, as we indicated last week, so we're not going back to that, is very clear, then you must have what it takes to inspire them, to give them hope, and the reason why they should be part of the team or organization. And that is where sometimes leaders face a challenge. We are unable to inspire hope even in the midst of difficulty. we are saying that before there can be transformation, whether in form, in nature, or in appearance, there has to be hope. There must be an ignition of passion and trust that this thing, even if it is not good today, tomorrow will be a better place. And look at Jesus. The reason why people are ready to have their head chopped off, the reason why Christians are willing to go through persecution is because he's giving us hope. The Bible says, Christ in you, the hope of glory. So in spite of the difficulties any Christian will face, they are willing to die because they've been given hope. If you are a bank manager, if you're a manager of a country, if you're a president of a country, and you cannot at every point give people reason to be hopeful, then you are losing the battle. At every stage, if you're a pastor, no matter the difficulty you are facing, if you're unable to provide hope to the congregation, forget it. Your legacy will not last. Once you die, once you leave the system, because the people have not bought into the hope and they are not hopeful themselves, the legacy will die away. And so it is important that you provide hope. The third thing is that you must provide goals that are challenging, that will inspire people to stretch. If the goal for your organization, the goal for what you are doing is not, exciting enough, it's not something that will stretch the people. If it is so normal, there's nothing. Once the person achieves the goal, it looks like there's nothing more to be achieved. And so every organization, if you are producing bread, your team that is following you to produce bread, one must have hope. Two, one, they must have clarity of purpose. Secondly, they must have hope in what they are doing. And thirdly, the thing must be so challenging, something that will stretch them so that there's no monotony, but there's something always willing to stretch you. People never get to the end of the journey. There's always something that they hope to achieve. And this is very important. So the transformational changes in the organization and life and well-being of the team must always go together. Now, what I'm saying is this. Sometimes there's hope in the organization. There's hope in the country. There's hope in the church. But there's no hope for those who are members of the team. I work in a bank. The bank produces a lot of profit. And so there's the idea that, well, this bank is a good bank. Once you work there, you're going to get a good tomorrow. But that is not enough. Those who work there, those who are on the team, must also be given hope that their life will change. Their life will get better. Sometimes organizations do everything to get all the profit and get all the breakthrough and get all the recognition. But those who are part of the team are not brought up some level of gaining recognition and importance. The point we are making is that much as the goal should be very challenging, the people who are part of the goal must be able to know what is in them, what is in the goal for them personally. Human beings naturally are selfish, respectfully. Every human being want to know, what will I get from this? Even Peter told Jesus that we have left family, we have left friends. What are we going to get? You see, God himself, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish. So God has an interest. And that is why he brought Jesus, so that we will have his interest, will be satisfied. So everybody, whether he works in the bank, he works in a school, he works as an MP or as a president, the citizens will want to know that what is it in it for them. And so if in providing hope, you provide hope only for the organization, but the people who are involved do not see any hope for their personal life, you may not succeed. And so you want to think about this thing that I'm doing, this company that I've set up. Those who work for me, one, do they have hope in the company? Two, do they realistically see that even if they endure today, tomorrow something good will come from it? They must be convinced, and they must know that even if the leader is not there, maybe the son or the family person will not come and destroy the organization. They want to be sure that the system is such that whoever takes over, because the structures are solid, are capable of keeping that hope. And so they will do anything because they know that they have benefits. They know that it will affect them. Having inspired hope, it is in need to sharpen their skill. You see, to have confidence so that people will buy into that purpose. All right, so let us go now to the elements of transformation. Every area that you want to see transformation, these three cardinal points must be there. You must look out for an appreciation of what is the nature of the transformation you are requiring. What is the nature of what you are doing? 2, what is the form? What is the form of the transformation? And finally, how do I want the transformation to appear? What is the brand? What is it that people can identify with? So for a person who wants to bring transformation, for a person who wants to leave living legacies, you will first of all need to understand the nature of the change. So now when we talk of a nature, a person needs to understand the fundamental or inherent identity or makeup of the organization. And you must have a good appreciation of its unique qualities. You must understand the fundamental or inherent identity or makeup of the organization. Now, when we talk about form, we are talking about the type. Whereas nature brings the fundamental basic identity of the organization or the makeup of the organization, that is the makeup. A form talks about the type or the variety of a particular organization. And we are talking about what is it that distinguishes it from a similar organization of the same nature. For instance, we know that the nature of a bank is to deal with financial institutions. It's a financial institution taking deposit, financial instrument, and all those things. So that is the nature of any bank. When you hear Bank of Africa, you hear Absa Bank, you hear whichever bank, there's certain nature. However, when we talk about the form, we are talking about the variety. What type of banking is it? What is the type? What is the variety of the organization? Again, for instance, if you're looking at a Christian, let's say a church, the nature of every church is to worship God. I mean, no matter the doctrine or whatever, the fundamental nature of every church is to get people to know God, to know Christ Jesus. But it has different forms. So we have Pentecostals, we have charismatics, but basically the nature is a church, but the form varies, and it cuts across everything you do. If you are talking about football team, what is the basic nature of a football team is to be able to train well and score a goal and win cups. That is the basic nature. However, the form, what kind of, is it 2-2-4? What kind of strategy are you going to use? Or 4-4-2? What do you call it? 4-4-2? All right. Now, having identified the nature and the form, then how you present your form for people to see brings out the difference. So maybe let's take, if you are setting up a school, for instance, let's try and see if we can use these three terminologies to get an understanding. The nature of education is that basically we impart knowledge. So you have a teacher, you have a student, you have training materials. That is the nature of education. So once you want to transform, you want to set up a school that is solid, you must understand what is the nature. And that is what will help you keep the originality of it. Now, when you come to form, for instance, education, what kind of school are you providing? Is it a JHS, or is it a university? Is it an infant school? So that is the form. Now, what is the appearance? Is it a high class first grade school? How is it appealing to people? Is it some village school, or is it a top class school? So the nature of every school is to train and to equip minds. And the form may differ. Maybe this one is a secondary, but it's still education. But my education may be secondary, your education may be university. So that is what brings the difference in identity. But when we talk about appearance, how is it attractive? How does it appeal to people? Let's come to church or a religious organization. You are a pastor. You have taken over from a church. You first of all must understand what is the nature of the church. Every church or a religious organization has to do with people serving God, and you must be very clear as how you're going to get it done. If you don't understand the nature of a church, you may take over leadership of a church and you may convert it into a business entity. You treat it as if it's a corporate organization, it's a business organization. Then you have fallen flat. So if you take over any institution and you do not understand the nature of that institution, you cannot leave living legacy, because at the end of the day, you will drift from what it is. Then, so that is the nature. Now let's talk about the form of a church. We have explained that some could be charismatic, some could be Pentecostal. So you must know what kind of form are you going to apply. Now, having understood that form, the next thing is, what is the appearance? Are you going to be using modern instruments? The same church, but you go to some churches and it is very modern, it's very strategic, high tech, it's very appealing. You go to some places too, the ushering, the way the church is being handled, the way members are treated after church service, they call the people newcomers or new converts, give them special treat. These are all the way, same church, same, let's say, Pentecostal movement, but the appearance, the aesthetics of it brings the difference. You may have a product. All of us may be producing soap. That is the nature of the soup. Now, when it comes to form, is it a washing powder? Is it a bathing powder? That is the form. However, even the packaging, the presentation, how it becomes attractive is critical. And sometimes we are so obsessed with the nature and the form, but not mindful of the appearance. And if at every point in time there is no bliss, there is no excitement on how the goal appears, how it's appealing, you realize that it cannot be sustained. So anybody who is a transformer, intending to bring change, which will be lasting, must appreciate these three great cardinal principles. I hope you are following me. Now, we're also going to go into something which is also very, very critical. So we have looked at the steps, how you need to get the framework very clear, the vision very clear. We've looked at how to bring passion, how to bring excitement, to give people hope, individual hope, corporate hope. We've looked at the three main broad considerations when it comes to being very dynamic in transformation. We've looked at nature, we've looked at the form, and we've also looked at appearance. The next thing in the dynamics of transformation, what are the various angles or various elements for which transformation can really take place? That transformational framework is double-edged, and it can be understood from the visible and the invisible perspectives. If you're unable to appreciate that every transformation is double-edged, there's the visible, the unseen element of transformation, which you must have your finger on with excellence and finesse. You must be very clear, the invisible, the unseen aspect, and then the visible aspect. So every organization must be very clear. The type or variety of a particular organization that makes it different from others, very different from others, so that your company, your goal, your vision is completely marked out, distinguished, separate from others. Now, now we'll start with the invisible. Remember, I've said that the dynamics of transformation is the two-edged sword, the invisible and the visible. And so we'll take the invisible first today, and then possibly we'll hang on. Remember, we will just have about 25 minutes to 30 minutes presentation. So if you have just joined, we've gone a bit, and very soon we'll be ending. The invisible perspective are mostly the unseen activities and preparations that have to go on for an organization to be effective and efficient. For you to be a solid, effective, and efficient translator, there are certain unseen preparations and activities that needs to go on. If you do not get a hold on the invisible, the unseen, you may have a challenge in the visible. So, and I'm going to use the human anatomy as an illustration of what I'm talking about. The invisible, you see, when you look at a human being walking on the street, that all that you see is the visible. But there are organs that human eyes cannot see, but they influence the person's well-being. For instance, when we look at the brain and the heart, now when somebody is walking along the place, you can't see the brain, you can't see the mind, you cannot see the mind. In fact, even the brain, you need to open the head, do a surgery before you can see the brain. And inside of the brain is the mind. Inside of the brain is the mind. So your power to have control over minds will affect body. So brain and heart are two invisible but very powerful organs of the body. Remember, I'm using invisible here loosely, in the sense that until you cut somebody, when you see somebody going, you don't see the brain, you don't see the heart, unless you operate. So what is visible is the head, the eyes, the hands, the feet, the legs. Those are the visible aspect of his being. So that's why I'm using the word loosely invisible. It does not mean that it is spirit or air. But I'm saying that anything that can experience great transformation, you must have a hold first on the invisible aspect before you come to the visible, or what we call the intangible components, before you can come to the tangible components. Sorry. So that is that. Now, still on the issue about the invisible. Now you look at the brain, and I've already given the example of the brain and the heart. The brain and the heart are more invisible and tangible components. However, when we talk of what makes the brain is the mind. And then what makes the heart critical are the desires. So whereas the brain produces the mindset in what you do, the heart produces the desire. The heart is the whole, the spirit. It is the soul of the person. He may have a thought. Somebody may have an idea, may have knowledge about something. But once the desire, the passion, the soul of that thing is destroyed, even the ideas will be unfunctional. How much more the visible thing like the product we spoke about. So in every transformation, get the invisible very clear, get the mind very clear, and get the desires really spot on. All right. So now we've spoken about the invisible. We'll come to that we'll go into much more detail. So I've explained that within transreladership, loosely, when we talk about the invisible, we are looking at the content of the brain and the content of the heart, which has to do with the mindset, the thoughts, the what is inside the person's thinking faculty. And then when we talk of the heart, we are talking about the person's soul, the person's emotions, that which holds the person going. That is the spirit behind whatever the person does. But when we come to the visible, again, we are talking about the tangibles, the things that people can experience or they can feel with their human senses. Now, within this discussion, the visible concepts are people's charisma. You can see that, you can experience that, the people's character, and people's community influence. So we just put it as 3C to help you appreciate what we are talking about. We have spoken about the invisible, which is the brain, which is the heart. The brain carrying the thoughts, the heart carrying the soul. Now, when it comes to visible, we are saying that in transreladership, we are looking at the 3 C's, the charisma, the character, and the community. Charisma, that which influences people's attitude towards work, attitude towards the goal, attitude towards the vision. Very critical. If you don't get it right, you are in trouble. Then there is the character, which influences people's action. Is the person lazy? Is the person hardworking? It is the character that influences that. Whereas the charisma influences the person's attitude, how passionate or how zealous the person is. The character determines the person's action. And then community, when we talk of community, we are talking about that which anchors and makes one being an answer and also being answerable to each other. You see, charisma brings the person's fire, what is his attitude that brings the zeal and the finesse. The character is his makeup that influences his action. Now, having gotten your character and your charisma, you must relate with people. People must get the benefit of your character and charisma. And that relationship is what brings what we call the community. We do not live in an island. Transformation does not reside in your bosom alone. It becomes relevant when its impact is felt in the community. And so visibility here has to do with character, charisma, and community. Hopefully, we'll get into the details. It looks like we are taking a lot today, but we just want you to get this very clear. So we are going to end for today, but let's just do a quick recap for those who just joined. Let's just take a minute to do a quick recap for those who just joined. We are looking at living legacy. We have said that transformation, we've looked at transformation today, and we've said that anybody who is a transformational leader, somebody who does a lot of transformation wherever he goes, must transform the form, the nature, and the appearance of whatever you do. So as I speak to you, begin to ask yourself, what is the nature of what you're involved in? What form should it take? How should it appear? Get an answer to those things. And we looked at example from Jesus, how he got all these three things very clear. He touched on the nature of people, he touched on their form, and he touched on their appearance. And that is what he does. Anybody that comes to him, he works on your inner being, your very nature. Then we said that to be able to achieve this, you must be clear in your purpose, whether it's nature, whether it's form, whether it's appearance. You must be very clear. We also said that you must have what it takes to inspire people, and then the goal should also be very challenging, something that will stretch people out. And we also said that the well-being of the organization and the team members must be topmost. You cannot just use people. Whatever benefits the organization get, try and share. Let people get benefits from it. Then they will stay with you for so long. At the end of the day, you must inspire confidence. We also looked at the nature, form, and appearance. Nature as the identity or makeup. We looked at the form as the type or variety of the organization. And we looked at appearance as how the brand, how it appears to people, the ecstasies, what appears, how it is perceived, whether it's real, whether it's deception. How do people see you for a prophet? Are you a genuine prophet or a false one? Once people form a perception about you, it is very difficult to change. And so what kind of perception or what kind of appearance do you provide is very important in every organization. Then we said to be able to achieve this, there are two major things you have to deal with. That is the visible and the invisible. The invisible, we said, is the heart and the brain. And we said that we use the word loosely, visible, invisible, because when you walk around, people don't normally see your brains and don't normally see your heart. But within the brain and the heart, we have explained that there is the real invisibility, which has to do with the mind. Nobody can read your mind or see your mind. And then your desires, nobody sees desires. Only when it is begin to manifest. Nobody sees your spirit or your soul. But once you're able to do that, it will influence your visible life. Get the invisible right, and the visible will be made manifest. The visible, we've spoken about the 3 C's: your charisma, your character, and the community. All right, we will want to end it here. If anybody has any questions, we'll be glad to take your questions. I hope it is understood anyway. So I'm going to stop the share. If there's anything you want me to explain, I'll be glad to do that. Any question from you folks? Any place you need clarity? Any question, you can just, if you have any question, you can just indicate by showing a hand or posting it on the social media handle, and we will deal with that for what we have studied. If you want to ask the question, you may have to unmute yourself because you are muted. You can just unmute if you're on Zoom. Or if you need further clarification. Any question? Or any comment? I'm waiting. If you have any question or comment, I'll be glad to have it.
Hello, Papa.
Yes.
Please, there is some question at the chat box.
At the chat box, let me check. All right. What will be the consequences of a leader who hasn't got the 3 C's right? Oh, you can't leave a legacy. Eventually, your organization or your system will fold up, especially when you are not there. When you are not there. And that is why some people are very good when they are there. They're able to push, they're able to force, they're able to lead. But when they leave the scene, their legacy is unable to be sustained because they would have not influenced the character, the charisma, and the community of the organization. And even if you are a leader and you don't have these 3 C's, you will start very well. You see that you have a very solid charisma. People will follow you. Your business will start growing. Your company will start blossoming. By the time you realize that your company will start going down because you've not sustained it with character and community. So that is what I have to say with it. So if you want to leave living legacy, then you must have the 3 C's. Benjamin, I don't know whether I've attempted answering your question. All right. Any other question? Good, Benjamin. If you have any question, just let us know. Remember, the focus of the presentation is how to leave living legacies. And when we say leave, we are not talking about when you die. We are talking about whilst you are in charge at every stage. You move from one stage to the other. When you move from one stage, let's say you started class 1. When you move from class 1 to class 2, what you started in class 1 should not die. You should leave it as a living legacy. Then you move to class 3. What you started in class 3 should not die. You must have the capacity to sustain what we are doing. And those are the things we are looking at. Another question, I guess, from Daniel. It says, what should you do if you are following a leader without the 3 C's? Bring him to the Transreladership E Class. If you are following a leader without the 3 C's, you have to bring him to the Transreladership E Class so that he will get the 3 C's. But on a more serious note, you may have to find a way of helping him consciously. So leadership is both ways. If you're a good leader down, you can have a way of gradually influencing the person who is a leader by either create the kind of questions you ask, the kind of engagement you do. You have to find a way of helping the person. You may want to introduce some training materials to him. You may want to introduce some opportunities to him. You may want to invite him to certain programs and activities that will help shaping these 3 things we are talking about. And that is it. If your leader doesn't have these 3 C's, it's such a bother, it's such a boring scenario. But what can you do? So once your leader doesn't have these 3 things, help the person by as I've said, introducing the person or helping the person take some courses, bring him to the E class. Or as Christians, the best we can do is to pray for him and see how God will do. But don't only pray, take action. Daniel, I don't know whether I've communicated. All right, good. Yes, any other question? Any other question? All right, so before we draw the curtains down, today, those of you who have been given the workbook, please do well to work on it. Some of you are requesting for the materials, but you see, if you don't give something little in terms of the registration, even as I've explained, the sending of the materials is very expensive. The data that you have to use, and these are a lot of materials. The PowerPoints, there are a lot of materials, and then the restream and all the things that are being dealt with. The book itself, it cannot be given for free. The workbooks, it cannot be given for free. So if you sign up to any of the packages, it makes it easier for us to be able to procure it for you. However, if you don't have money, you can just listen, make notes, and you'll still benefit from what we are doing. All right, if there are no more, any other question for today's lecture? All right, so we're going to give you an assignment. Today, we'll not break into groups, but I want you to do the assignment in home. Simple assignment. Identify what you yourself you are into. Let's say you are in business, or you are in church, or you work for somebody. Just ask yourself, solve the question, what are the 3 areas of the nature of transformation? In other words, what is the nature? Answer the question, nature of your organization. Answer, what form is it taking? How is it appearing? What changes can you bring? Answer that question. What changes, what kind of transformation can you bring as far as the nature, the form, and the appearance is concerned? And then the second assignment is, how do you provide hope to the organization and to the individuals within the organization? How do we do that? Just answer those questions and inbox it to us. That is your assignment for today. If there are no further questions, we would hang on now, and God willing, next week. If somebody wants to ask a question, maybe you are asking, but I can't hear you. Maybe you have to unmute yourself. Okay. All right. God bless you so much for joining us. Let's encourage others to join the E-Class. We are doing very practical stuff. Gradually, we are getting into the real issues, and we'll see how we would appropriate it. God bless you, and see you again next week.
Thank you, but please, I didn't get the second question.
Oh, the first question, but you got the first one. The first one, okay, let me see if I can type it on the page. The first one is, identify, as far as your outfit or whatever you are doing is concerned, what is the nature, the form, and the appearance, and what changes do you think must be effected so that it will remain lasting legacy? Question number 2 is, how do you create hope in your organization and in the life of the people who work with the organization? Remember, we said that at every point when hope is lost, you're on the road to dying. But when hope is alive, whether you are there or not, once there's hope in the organization and hope in the people who work with the organization, that there's something they will gain from it. Every human being naturally has a bit of selfishness in them. They may not be too selfish, but everybody wants to know, what will I gain from what I'm doing? Whether you are preaching, and I give you the example of the apostles and God himself. So we too, we have that nature. So how do you provide hope in the organization, and how do you provide hope in the people who work in the organization? Just write do a write-up on these things, and let's have it in about 2 weeks' time. We do not rush you in the assignment, but please try and do the assignment. We will not give the certificate if you don't do these things we are asking you to do. Please, we will not. And in future, when you come across whether employment or people know that you have gone through the E class, they know what kind of person or transformation has taken place in your heart. It has helped us, and I believe it's going to help you too. All right, so God bless you. I don't know whether I'm clear with the questions now. Who asked the question? Are we clear with the questions now? Yes,
Papa, I'm very clear.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. So God bless you, and invite your friends to join. If you think we are learning something good, invite them to join. They should not be afraid at all of the packages God will provide. All right. God bless you, and see you again next week. Bye-bye.